We are about 30-ish days away from Colorado taking the field in Dallas-Fort Worth to play against the TCU Horned Frogs. But first, they have some very important position battles to settle during fall camp, and I'm going to highlight those position battles on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bolber. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the key position battles during fall camp for Colorado. They have about 30 days. It might be a little more, a little less away from the start of their season. And they have about, I would say, 7 to 10 position battles that need to be settled before then, so that way they could get things going, and that way we know who's going to be taking the field for the Buffs. We know they have a lot of talent everywhere, but these position battles are going to reign supreme this whole fall camp. That's going to be the talk of the camp. I'm going to be talking about how Colorado's getting innovative. They're kind of moving forward with the future. They won't be the first to do this thing, and they won't be the last to do it. And then we're going to talk about conference realignment updates, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10. It all intertwines. So I will be discussing and updating you guys on what you need to know heading into the next coming days. So without further ado, sorry, I had a hiccup there. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to tune in, like, subscribe, and follow. We appreciate you guys. Okay, time to talk about the key position battles for Colorado. We all know when you bring in 50 transfers, there's a lot of things to kind of figure out. There's 88 new people on the roster this year. So that means there's position battles galore. Honestly, I don't want to say spring ball was a waste because obviously you want to get work in when you can. But spring ball was technically a waste for Colorado because majority of those guys are no longer on the team. So they're essentially starting fresh with the season a few weeks away, which will be an interesting challenge. But there are multiple position battles that I think are super important. So I'm going to highlight those. And this is kind of what I've been told and what I've been reading about the position battles and who's kind of leading them to start. So up first, safety. They have 6 starting caliber safeties, I would say. Shiloh Sanders, obviously the son of Coach Prime, came from Jackson State, was all SWAC player a couple years ago. Trevor Woods, Colorado guy last year, very, very good. One of the few bright spots on the team. You got Cameron Silman Craig, Jackson State transfer. Miles Slusher, Arkansas transfer, was one of their best players. Roderick Ward, Southern Utah, who very underrated transfer. Wouldn't surprise me if he claims one of the starting spots or as at least has a major impact. Travis J from Florida State, Vito Tisdale from Kentucky, who was dealing with some legal issues and injury issues this past year. That's going to be this position battle right here is probably the most important and most interesting. I think it's rare that you have 6 starting caliber players at a position where only 2 of them are going to start. I'm not saying that these guys won't rotate, but obviously you're not going to be rotating safeties in and out like it's hockey. Maybe one of them moves to nickel. Maybe one of them, I don't know. I don't really know how it all works out. There's people who are definitely not going to get the snaps that they were hoping when they transferred, so that'll be interesting. It's a good problem to have this much talent. And you never know with injuries what could happen. But I don't envy whoever has to make that decision. I believe it's Charles Kelly, who's the safeties coach, is going to have to make that decision. So he kind of is focusing on the defense as a whole, and then he's focusing on his safeties and making sure that they're doing what they need to be doing. So yeah, that's going to be an intense battle. I've already predicted the winners a couple times. I look forward to seeing who comes out victorious on this one. The offensive line, you have in the interior offensive line, you got Tyler Brown, Van Wells, and Jack Wilty. They were all with the first team throughout spring practice, but obviously, like I talked about, spring practice wasn't a waste, but it definitely wasn't indicative of what was to come because obviously there's so many new guys, like even Jack Bailey, who played in Sean Lewis's offense the past couple of years. He knows the system. So does he come in and take a spot right away? The running backs was I think is a more interesting one. I think Alton McCaskill is the front runner, but who's behind him? Who comes in as that second back? It should be Kavosi Smoke, but then you have guys like Savion Wilkerson from Jackson State. You have Dylan Edwards, the freshman, Charlie Offerdahl, the walk-on, who also might want to have a say in something. Then you look at corner. This is obviously there's Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter secures one spot, but who starts opposite of him? Does Cormani McClain get the nod right away? Do they go with they could go with a number of guys here. Kendrick Breedlove from Ole Miss, Carter Stoudemire. He's the godson of the position coach. Not that I don't think this team has any nepotism on it, but there's a lot of guys that were kind of in the mix, I guess you could say. There's just going to be a lot of bodies here. I think you could look at Omarion Cooper from Florida State. There's just a lot of things going on. Maybe you also go Alabama transfer Jaquez Robinson. There's one corner spot and probably about 4 guys vying for it. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I think obviously I've talked about it hundreds of times, maybe not hundreds of times. I've only done 115-ish episodes, but the wide receiver spot that isn't claimed by I think Colorado has 3 receiver spots claimed. I'm just going to call it right there. You have Jimmy Horn, Xavier Weaver, and Travis Hunter, and I think Javon Antonio kind of claimed one, so that could be the 4th right there. So that means guys like Willie Gaines from Jackson State, Baylor transfer Jalen Ellis, Tavares Dawson from Auburn, Marion Miller, the freshman. All these guys are vying for these spots, but you're probably vying for one spot, and that one spot could honestly be Travis Hunter's spot when he's not on the field on offense. So you're not even going to be a full starter. Well, you'll be a starter, but you are not going to get full reps like these other guys. I think receiver has kind of been one of those things where we've been talking about who's going to be the winner of the position battle. It kind of feels like that's already been settled-ish after summer workouts and stuff because receivers were the one position group that kind of had all of the transfers there that I think would be starting because Xavier Weaver was there, Jimmy Horn was there, Jalen Ellis was not there. Not sure. I don't think Willie Gaines was there. He might have been. Tavares Dawson was there, but some of these guys have a leg up, and that's what you get for being able to enroll early. So wide receivers is one to look out for. Then you go down to linebacker. Levante Bentley, he's a Clemson transfer who should be the middle linebacker, but you still need to figure out who's going to be the outside linebackers. Do you go with Demoy Kennedy from Alabama, who I think is going to be a breakout star this season, kind of a freak athlete that just hasn't found his way onto the field. And then you got Brendan Gant from Florida State, who hybrid linebacker, safety type of guy. Where does he fit into this? A lot of things to be seen there. And then finally, the backup quarterback. Obviously, the backup quarterback situation is going to be very interesting. It's going to be, regardless of who wins, it's going to be a walk-on or a freshman. So you want someone who's, I guess, is able to handle pressure and knows the offense well, because if Shadur goes down or if they need someone to come in and play, you need your backup quarterback to kind of step up and be that guy. So those are the position battles that I am focusing on. I will keep you guys updated on what I hear about them and who kind of emerges as the leaders. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I also need you guys to know that this episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I personally have been hired off LinkedIn. That's where I got my job at the Pac-12 Networks when I first graduated college a couple years ago, and now look at me. I'm a star. No, I'm just kidding. But either way, it helped me go through LinkedIn, was able to kind of meet the hiring manager and go from there. If you want to do the same and find the perfect candidate like myself, then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay. We're back. We're talking about Colorado being innovative, kind of continuing to show that under Coach Prime, they're not afraid to do cool, trendy, futuristic things. I'm going to show you guys something that I saw yesterday. A lot of you guys saw it as well, but just in case you haven't, or if you're listening, I'll describe it to you. ASMR vibes. Um, Colorado, they aren't the first team. I think UCF was the first team to do it. I think Jackson State did it as well last year, but UCF did it a couple years ago, I believe, where they put Colorado did their social media handles on the back of their practice jerseys. So rather than saying Sanders, Hunter, Horn, whoever, it has at Shedeur Sanders too. So I was going to show you guys just kind of what it looks like. And we saw it during practice yesterday. Let me get the volume down because this video is kind of loud. But just in case you guys wanted to see what it looks like, because I think it's a pretty cool thing that they're doing there. Obviously, they've kind of been more on the innovative side. Also, pay attention to a few slides later, the defensive line getting the pressure on the quarterback. That was interesting to me as well. There's Marty McLean right there, got beat. Here's the play. Pressure's in his lap. Pressure's right in his lap. I think that's Dylan Edwards. So yeah, I think it's a really cool thing that they're doing there. Obviously, when you have a program who is catching a lot of eyes right now, you kind of want to be able to help these guys build their brands up, especially in this NIL world. I think a lot of players value, and Coach Prime said it himself, and he said that he's had not anybody on this team, but players come to him and be like, "What's my NIL package?" before they even ask about playing time and stuff like that. So obviously, we live in a society where players value things like social media followers, NIL, almost more than they value the football product. If you're a listener and you didn't get to see the video, it's on Buffs on Ath on Twitter, so go check it out. It's literally where their name is. It says at Shedeur Sanders or whatever his Twitter is. And then also, I was kind of pointing out, you probably heard me talking during the video because there's not really any audio that's worth listening to. They were doing some scrimmaging. I don't know if it was 11 on. I think some of it was 11 on 11. Other was 7 on 7. When the defense line was going against the offense line, Shedeur Sanders was quickly under pressure, which is quite concerning. I talked about it multiple times. I'll talk about it again. The offensive line is going to be determining whether or not this team is any good on offense. If Shedeur Sanders has 2 seconds to get the ball off, or like 1 second, this offense will not work. They're going to be off the field. Since they go so fast, they're going to be off the field in about 30 seconds. It's going to be quite disastrous. You don't want to see that. Here's the thing. When it comes to the offensive line, if they can't hold up, the speed of this offense will do them no favors. And it also make it hard on the run game. So you hate to see that. But the whole point of this topic was to talk about how Colorado is innovative. This attracts recruits, this attracts parents, and this attracts NIL. I think it shows that Colorado is a forward-thinking program. They want to do whatever they can to help their players earn as much recognition, money, clout, if you will, as possible. And while some people aren't a fan of it, I saw a lot of backlash on social media about it yesterday. People saying it's corny or whatever. At the end of the day, this is what matters to the kids. I'm sure they love it. I'm sure they think it's cool, and that's all that matters. So if you think that if you get players thinking your program's cool, which they already have Coach Prime on the sideline, so that's cool. The more cool things about the program, the more likely they are to attract guys to this program to be a part of something bigger and part of something new. When we come back, I'm going to be giving you guys the latest on all things Pac-12, Big 12, and even kind of Big 10 because it coincides with what I'll be talking about when we get back. Welcome back. We're talking about the latest when it comes to college football and realignment. As we know, Colorado has gone to the Big 12. They are not expected to be the only ones to go. It's really interesting. Arizona, kind of viewed as the next program in. Arizona State, Utah, those 3 schools seem to be in a pact. Do they go? Do they stay? We'll find out. Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports, reported today on the app formerly known as Twitter. I believe it now goes by X. Reported basically what are the possibilities for the Pac-12 and all these other schools. Arizona is kind of the first domino. If they decide to stay in the Pac-12 probably lives. If they decide to leave, the Pac-12 probably dies. They are kind of everybody's looking at them like, what are they going to do? They met recently. They had a board of regents meeting where I think there was hundreds, maybe thousands of people hoping to figure out what was going to happen. And like 20 seconds in, they were like, okay, this is an executive meeting. So public access void. So everybody got kicked out of the meeting after about 10, 15 seconds, which is kind of funny. But Arizona figuring out what they want to do. Obviously, if they leave the Big 12, it would be detrimental to the Pac-12. I'm not sure if they could stick together. Probably would lead to the Big 10 coming in, which I'll get to later. This scenario, I think a lot of people don't consider this a possibility anymore, but it is. While it's unlikely, it's still a possibility. The Pac-12 can get Arizona and all these schools to stick together. The 9 remaining schools will stick together and move forward. They would then agree on a media rights deal, which, based on what we saw the other day, is based off of, or is heavily reliant on Apple streaming. Each school has a chance to earn. The number was reported at $25 million per year, with the incentives of getting subscribers to earn more. And the Pac-12 is hoping to kind of get some TV action on there. I'm not really sure if that's going to work out. But if they agree on a media rights deal, which has kind of been the whole thing, the whole year, if they agree on that, then they can expand, adding San Diego State, SMU, Colorado State, Tulane, whoever it may be, to get that number back up. And then also, I saw something that was interesting from Jason Shear of, I believe he's of 24/7 Sports. I don't remember what his site's name is. Here's the thing. I don't know how people would feel about this, but it would be interesting. It would keep the Pac-12 in the conversation longer, merging with the Mountain West or the ACC. That's kind of been floated out there in the past couple hours since I recorded this. Conferences merging together and just forming the Mountain West would make more sense geographically, but the ACC would take in the remaining Pac-12 teams and they'd have a cross-continental, cross-country rivalry and stuff like that. So that'd be interesting. I'm not really sure how that works out, but that is possible. If this were to happen, that all these teams agree on a media rights deal, I think this effectively ends this wave of realignment in terms of Power 5 teams. They're going to be adding Power 5 teams. Florida State's kind of the interesting one right now, but I think they're too tied up in the ACC deal. So I don't know what their out would be. And then obviously I mentioned the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants or looked into the wording with the Big Ten is so interesting. It's really weird. It's like they're trying to not be absolute, or they're speaking in absolutes or whatever. So they're making it all complicated. They're waiting and watching though. They're interested in jumping to 18 to 20 teams. If they do 20, it'll be Washington, Oregon, Stanford, Cal. Even if those programs join, they're not going to get the full membership money. So they'd probably get 50 to 60% less, which comes out to $50 to $65 million. So even if these programs go to the Big Ten and they get a discounted rate, they're still going to be making double what the Big 12 or Big 10, what the Pac-12 is making. So that's interesting. So really have to pay attention in the next coming days, because John Wilner reported today that the Pac-12's future is going to be decided in the next 24 to 36 hours. So you got to be interested to see what happens there. The Pac-12 realistically could either die within the next day or two, or it could live on for until the next contract stuff is up. But hopefully by then, if they do survive, they have a much better plan going in. But yeah, this has kind of been a crazy week. Colorado kind of kicked it off with jumping to the Big 12, and now we're looking to see who follows them, who doesn't follow them. So that's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Have a great Thursday, and I will see you guys tomorrow.